This is what we're going to try and achieve in this Photoshop exercise. We're going to manipulate layers one by one and then take them into the timeline. So I just want to show you this so you can have an understanding of where we're going. The Puppet Warp tool found under the Transform tools in this Edit menu is a very powerful tool to bend and distort objects in Photoshop. If you click on the Puppet Warp tool, you are making sure you're on your layer. You get this little pin, like a push pin, and it's here that you can just click your pin anywhere in your images and it will place a mesh, immediately place a mesh over your image. I can click several different points along the way, top and bottom, to start to actually manipulate my image. If I want to turn the mesh off, I can come up here in the options panel and click off and work with it this way. But let's keep it on for now so you can kind of see where your points are within the context of the mesh. If you look at this one point here, this is telling me that it's selected and the other ones become anchor points. So if I hover over it, it turns into an arrow and I can now click and hold it down and start to drag it. And it's only this point that will start to get pulled. The other ones will stay as anchor points. If I want to use more than one of these points, if I want to select maybe 2 or 3 points, I can hold my Shift key and then click on the points that I want to use to drag and manipulate that area, and then the whole section or wherever your points are, they will become part of your manipulation. Once I accept that, I can click on to, if I want to keep it, I can click here on my check mark, or I can say, no, I really don't want to do that. I'm going to accept it. Once I accept it, the smart filter, because this is a smart object, remembers where your points are. If you turn them off, then you can come back to your original file. So I can come back into, well, as long as I'm on the same layer, come back into the Puppet tool, and the smart object will remember your points. So I'm going to click here now and drag this in, and I've decided I want to put another point down, so I can drag this in, and so on and so forth. So this is the way that you can come and start to manipulate your images and decide how you want to manipulate them. Okay, I'm going to go back to our original file here. Okay, for your homework or for our next class, I would like for you to create 12 different layers with varied manipulation using the Puppet tool or the free Transform tool to each different layer. We did this in class, but I'm going to kind of go over it again. Start by having your image embedded, place embed into your file at 100%. And then we're going to Command J it or Control J to make a duplicate or duplicate layer. So you have to be on the layer in order to duplicate it, okay? Once you have that set, you're going to make sure your lower or your layer that's underneath the top layer is at 100% opacity, and your top layer is at 50% opacity. So that will give you the ability to see what's underneath. It's called onion skinning in animation. So you'll see it once you get started. We're going to grab your Puppet tool, and I'm going to place a couple pins here. I want to point out that if you only put your pins on the top and then hover over it to get your small arrow to move it, you're only going to be able to really move it this way, because this is from one anchor point. So you need more anchor points if you want to manipulate your image all the way around. So I'm going to put several anchor points down. So this is a whole page. It's just not the image itself. We're going to do that next. But for now, you're manipulating the whole page, so you may want to just put some anchor points kind of on the edges of the page as well. Okay, once you have them down, you can start to pull them, hover over, and you'll be able to see your image underneath. Oh, I also turned off my mesh. By default, the mesh comes on, and you can keep it on if you want to see where you're going with this. I just think if you have a very kind of full image, it's hard to see it, or a lot of marks, so I just turned mine off so I can see it a little better underneath and what's kind of going on. So I'm pulling all of these points to the inside or to the middle. You can do it outside, you can pull them this way, however you want to really structure this kind of practice animation. I would like for you to do kind of what you want. I don't want them all to look the same. So I'm just pulling in the rest of the page as well, not only working just with my main marks that are on the inside. So once I have this kind of made some small increments, I'm going to accept it by the check. And so now I have 2 layers. I'm going to uncheck my bottom layer now. I'm no longer going to use that. And now I'm going to check, I wanted to rename this doodle too. 3. So there's several things you have to do. You have to Command J to duplicate it, rename it to the next number, and turn it to 50% opacity. Make sure this is at 100 underneath. Otherwise, you won't be able to see the difference. Then I'm going to come here, click on my puppet tool, and again, it remembers my anchor points that I put in here. So I'm just going to make small little incremental changes. You may want to like drag one out. Doesn't all have to come in. It can take on all different kinds of form. Or you may want to take maybe one point really far in, or you want to move it pretty quickly. Drag this out, drag it in. It's really up to you how you want to do this. Okay, once I make my changes, I'm going to accept it. And then I'm going to uncheck my second layer, and I'm going to click on doodle number 3. I'm going to make it 100 in its opacity, and then I'm going to Command J it, name it doodle 4. Click on it. Okay, so you're going to continue to do this for a minimum of 12 layers. If you want to do more, you can do more. You can do 24 layers. That will give you 2 seconds. 12 layers will give you 1 second. But kind of plan out how you want to end this just to class. But it would be really great if everybody got to this point, so then we can start setting up the animation. Enjoy this project. Bye.